I'm not making this video to shit on the finale. I see enough of that every day online. I'm only talking about this because it's clear we gotta separate these two stories. Most of us already did after season 4 when George Martin removed himself from production to focus on the Winds of Winter and other personal projects. But to get it out of the way, I don't think Arya will be the one to take out the Night King whenever A Dream of Spring does come out. Daenerys will not rapidly transition to the Mad Queen in that manner either. George Martin's writing style does include a lot of shock value, like the Game of Thrones writers, but not at the cost of throwing away years of progression towards a character's development. So many inconsistencies made the final season feel like a completely different series. These story arc conclusions can still happen, but very, very differently. Like in the case with Arya single-handedly ending the threat of the Long Night encompassing the entire world. It doesn't make sense to have Arya kill the Night King, with Jon and Bran's whole story leading up to this final confrontation. Not to mention the greatest threat in this world's history couldn't even make it past Winterfell. If all 3 Stark kids came together and accomplished this feat, then it would be more believable. This tangent has no end in sight, so on the topic of why A Song of Ice and Fire has to end differently to Game of Thrones, there was a diverging path right after the events of Tyrion's escape from King's Landing. This is kind of the moment I consider to be a restart to a lot of story arcs. This would be the end of season 4 in the show and the end of the 3rd book. The 4th and 5th book was completed around the time this was airing, but the Game of Thrones showrunners had other plans in order to simplify the story and make a sprint for the finale. George Martin did the exact opposite in the 4th book. He instead introduced a shit ton of new characters and major twists. The biggest one being Young Griff, who is claiming to actually be Rhaegar Targaryen's believed to be dead infant, Aegon VI. This guy is just as convinced as Viserys that the throne is rightfully his, and is currently on a warpath in the Stormlands to make it a reality. He understands Daenerys also wants to see herself on the Iron Throne, but is convinced she will marry him and they'll rule together. But as king, Aegon will always be the one true ruler. Unless he can't tame a dragon, then Dany's dominance will remain. If the people of Westeros cling to his cause over hers, even after she helps Jon and Bran deal with the White Walker threat, maybe then a spiraling into madness arc for Daenerys can begin. Not just a sudden switch from beloved heroine to city-burning villain. With Dany staying in Meereen to liberate the region, this opened an opportunity for her nephew Aegon, who was actually a couple years older than her, to take the 7 Kingdoms first. The original plan to reveal his identity to the world was by Dany's side, but she keeps refusing to abandon the slaves she only recently freed. If her good intentions slowly take everything she loves from her, like her dragons and the few she truly cares for, then a slow descent into madness will be believable. Her only real dream is to go home, but she doesn't really have one. If all of Westeros views her as a monstrous dragon queen, it'll drive her to become just that. Aegon is already gathering Stormlander and Dornish support. Dany could have secured Dorne to her side with a marriage alliance, one Dany promptly dismissed. Worse, Quentyn Martell, Prince Doran's eldest son, died under her roof. When Aegon meets some of the men part of his small army, one officer had an interesting line of possible foreshadowing. He claims there's some amongst the group who have deep ties with houses in the Reach, which may be possible considering how horribly Cersei is dismantling that alliance. The actual Game of Thrones will be a more relevant part of the conclusion, with Aegon now in the mix, instead of this happening.
We don't have a king or queen.
You're the most powerful people in Westeros. Choose one.
Aegon is a pretty competent character, but nothing remarkable or unique about him. His confidence might do him in, especially since everything has been smooth sailing for him so far. Telling people that he's the only dragon they need won't get him far. But like I said, this is a very new character, so we'll have to get to know him better in Winds, when he's faced with more resistance. There's no warmth right now between aunt and nephew here. Dany doesn't even know he exists yet. She won't be thrilled when she finds out his intentions either. The moment Aegon figures out Westeros has a serious infestation problem, I don't know how hard he'll fight to protect the people he wants to serve him. Dany will obviously be a part of the major war against the White Walkers. This can be where the divide begins. Failed marriages and betrothals is a recurring theme in Dany's story, a trend I don't think Aegon will break. Drogo, Zoros Zondoxis, Hizdahr Zolarok, Quentyn Martell, both Greyjoy brothers, Yarn and Victarion also want her hand. Aegon will be an antagonist to her, like some of the names I just stated. Then there's the high chance that Varys and Illyrio completely fabricated Aegon's origin story, and he's just a pretender. There's very little these schemers won't do to sway things behind the scenes, which will fan the flames of questioning succession after Cersei's inevitable defeat. There's a lot of Quentyn Martell parallels happening with Aegon. Both head out on campaigns way out of their league. Things go their way until reality sweeps the rug from under their feet. This put poor Quentyn in an early grave thanks to some dragon fire. But Aegon should last at least a little longer. The introduction to Rhaegar Targaryen's heir in A Feast for Crows came at us like a curveball. His name alone guarantees a very different ending to what we saw go down in the Game of Thrones finale. Without more guidance from George Martin, the show writers just decided to call Jon Snow Aegon, and forget that Rhaegar had a little son with Elia Martell named Aegon already. The Game of Thrones, which the show was actually named after, concluded so abruptly in the 8th season, which should have been a serious struggle was so forgettable and almost comedic. There's so many other smaller reasons for why A Song of Ice and Fire will wrap up differently. Reasons like Mads faking his death, or Catelyn Stark's resurrection, Euron's Dragonhorn and Victarion betraying his brother, but Aegon tops them all. I would like to hope little Rickon Stark isn't killed off without exploring his more savage story arc, but with so little going on with him right now, anything is possible. Davos' upcoming chapters with him, Shaggy Dog, Asha, and all the unicorns is one of the things I'm looking forward to the most in the Winds of Winter. What do you guys think is the biggest shift in the books that'll affect the ending that we saw in Game of Thrones? It's gotta be big to outdo everything I just talked about. Look forward to reading your thoughts. I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching.